Okay, hopefully you enjoyed your break. Now it's time to talk about Hitler's actions that were seen as something that was inherently threatening to the countries of Europe or in violation of the conditions that we outlined from the Treaty of Versailles. So in 1933, he becomes the Chancellor of Germany and wants Lebensraum, or what is known as living space around his country. He claims that he has hostile actors surrounding him, that Germany needs room to breathe, right? That they were encircled after World War One, or after the conclusion of World War One, and they need some living space back. The second thing that he does after taking power is announcing the expansion of the Wehrmacht, which is the German armed forces, to 600,000 members, which was six times the number permitted by the Treaty of Versailles, right? So he literally looks at that document and rips it up and uses it as toilet paper in terms of the limited military, right? That you can see that Hitler is starting to act out like that screaming child, right? Oh, you think you can limit my military, right? You thought, no, here it is, way larger, and they become a well organized military force relatively quickly. 3 years after his ascent to power, he occupies the Rhineland, which is this dashed area, in Western Germany. And one of the conditions of the Treaty of Versailles is that anything 50 kilometers to the east of the Rhine River, right, which is the line on the Rhineland, that if Germany set one foot into this territory, then it is seen as a threat to the peace or stability of the world. Other areas that he is interested in is the Saar region, the Ruhr region, and the Sudetenland, which we will talk about here in a few moments. But he's starting to identify territorial claims that he would like to have. So when he starts to take into the territory of the Rhineland, people are like, uh-oh, what are we going to do with Hitler now, right? He's violated the terms of the agreement. And a few years later, he calls for an Anschluss, or a union with Austria. Anschluss is essentially the propaganda term that the Germans start to use to talk about like finding ethnic Germans or people of the same blood in other newly created territories, or territory that was taken away from Germany. If you go back and listen to any of the speeches that current Russian President Vladimir Putin gave about his annexation of the Ukrainian territory of Crimea, he talked about the need to bring ethnic Russians back to the motherland, and that's a page out of what Hitler was doing in the 1930s, right? That he is identifying areas where people of the same blood were rightfully ripped from their motherland, and they should have a right to be part of the country that they were from birth or from blood. And this is also another blatant violation of the Treaty of Versailles. And again, he's kind of celebrated as a hero of those actions. In 1938, he next claims his last piece of the territorial claim outlined on the first map, the Sudetenland, and these are the outer areas of now Czechoslovakia, were. And again, he's claiming that these 3 million ethnic Germans need to be reunited with the motherland. So he believes that Germany has a right to seize this territory, to claim it back, to invade it. Um, And where this becomes problematic for the people of Czechoslovakia is the other item that these areas in green all have in common, is where their iron and steel, or 70% of their iron, steel, and coal were all housed, where their electricity was generated. So there are strategic reasons why Germany would want to be able to claim those resources as well. And if Germany successfully claimed the Sudetenland, then they would have no resources to stand on their own. And, Germany might as well annex all of Czechoslovakia. So, he is using this notion of restoring the motherland and bringing ethnic Germans back home. But there are definitely strategic reasons in terms of looking at his claim to the Sudetenland. So the question becomes, what do the leaders of prominent countries around the world, what will they choose to do with Hitler, right? Do they keep pushing around the screaming child in the grocery store, hoping that they will run out of steam and their fit will stop and it will no longer be a problem? Or do they believe if they cave to any of these demands or actions, that, right, Hitler will calm down and it will go away? So an event is held called the Munich Conference in September of 1938 with the leaders of France, England, and Italy. And it was kind of to discuss some of the things that Hitler had done prior to the conference. Ironically enough, Czechoslovakia, who had a large portion of their industrial economy taken away from them, their leaders weren't permitted to attend. So the end result of that conflict was Germany's annexation of the Sudetenland was allowed, right? So not only is Czechoslovakia not given a seat at the table, but the leaders of France, Italy, and England all give in to Hitler's demands, right? They go, yeah, you can have these things, right? So they believe that after they told the child no a couple of times in the grocery store, that if they tell them yes now, that, it will prevent a future fit. Spoiler alert, it does not. So Neville Chamberlain, the Prime Minister of the UK, says, I've met with Hitler and he agrees to peace in our time if we give him the Sudetenland. Now we have peace. So Neville Chamberlain believed that, right, he successfully pacified the screaming child, right? That, noble Adolf Hitler will be a man of his word, that now that he gets to keep the territory, right, he won't do anything else. We've preserved the rest of the world from catching fire again. But that very much does not become the case, right? You have people who, some folks are, excited to see that they are reunited with a strong and growing German leader. But then you have some people who are kind of torn about the control of Germany. You start to see some dissent within the ranks in the United Kingdom, and you're seeing another growing political influence, a man by the name of Winston Churchill, who you should remember because he is the one who is the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom for, World War II post the appeasement actions of Chamberlain. And he says appeasement is like feeding a dragon hoping he will eat you last. That Churchill does not believe that Chamberlain took the correct, appropriate actions, that he thinks that Hitler will take more territory, right? That it's literally writing constant checks to Germany with a hope that the United Kingdom becomes the last target, because they constantly rubber stamp the actions of what the Germans were wanting to do. So our original cartoonist from the first slide, one Dr. Seuss, kind of shows this same kind of sentiment in a political cartoon, right? If you look at the heads of all of the very Grinch-like dragons, you'll notice that they have swastikas, or the symbol of the Nazi Party, brandished on their neck, and in the center you see a Whovillian type person, labeled as the appeaser. That now the question becomes, if uh, the countries of the world cave to Hitler here, not only will they cave to more of Hitler's demands, but more importantly, if there are other people who rise to do the same kind of things, will that be equally as problematic? So in 1939, the German army attacks Poland, right? Whoops, Chamberlain was wrong. We do not have peace in our time. Uh, and we see the eventual folding of Poland into the Reich, or Germany's control, and this leads to Britain and France declaring war against Germany because of this now hostile act, right? You would think that multiple violations of the Treaty of Versailles would show that Hitler is not someone who is going to honor international agreements, but they gave in to the kid's first demand, and if you give a mouse a cookie, he's going to want some milk. So he's going to keep doing more and more and more. So Chamberlain has to eat a great degree of crow, right? That he originally goes from, we will have peace in our time, to, our conscience is clear, we now must declare war on Germany. Here's the headline from the LA Times, right? The United States, early on in World War II, just like World War I, does not take a position on getting involved in the war, that we kind of revert back to elements of isolationism. So Chamberlain resigns, right, because there's a massive about face on his policy. It goes from appeasing Hitler is a good thing. Now we have peace in our time, peace in our time, peace in our time. Ah, crap, I was wrong. And he quits. So he is replaced by Winston Churchill, right, the guy who said, feeding a dragon hoping he'll feed from you last. So the American president at the time, FDR, says that America is isolationist and wants to avoid another deadly war, but we must help our allies, right? So again, we're stuck between a rock and a hard place. Do we get involved in a conflict that will be costly and problematic for the United States to enter, and get involved to help our allies, or do we go, up, sorry, Britain and France, this one's all on you? So one of the things that we'll talk about in a later set of notes is kind of looking at some of the different options that the Americans kind of pursued before they get involved. The last couple of slides in here are things that you can just kind of look at, and again, we can discuss them during office hours, but Dr. Seuss has a large collection of World War II era propaganda that he created to attempt to inspire people to fight the Nazis, to look at the growing German threat or menace as a problem. And then this last clip that you can look at, I think it's a Hitler speech. I don't remember. It's too late. But we'll talk about these different political cartoons kind of throughout. So hopefully this gives you enough information to start filling out your appeasement sheet in your interactive notebook. All right. We'll see if you have any questions during office hours, and if not, have a good one.